All right, folks, gather around. Whether you're a finance buff, a casual news watcher, or just someone who likes to keep an eye on their wallet, you're going to want to pay attention to this one. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a topic that's making headlines and shaking up boardrooms across the globe. Today, we're diving into the wild world of global finance, specifically something called de-dollarization. Now, I know that might sound like a mouthful, but stick with me. This is one of those things that could end up affecting everything from the price of your morning coffee to the value of your retirement savings. Sounds scary, right? Well, it kind of is, especially if you're a fan of those crisp greenbacks we call American dollars. For decades, the US dollar has been the superstar of the financial world, the currency that countries everywhere have trusted for trade, savings, and stability. In a nutshell, de-dollarization is like a slow-motion breakup. But instead of awkward silences and passive-aggressive text messages, we're talking about countries ditching the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Imagine if your favorite band suddenly decided to stop playing their biggest hit, people would notice, and the whole vibe would change. Yep, that little piece of paper with dead presidents on it might not be the king of the financial jungle for much longer. The dollar's reign has been long and powerful, but now cracks are starting to show. Some countries are quietly and sometimes not so quietly looking for alternatives. Think of it like this. The US dollar is the Beyoncé of currencies. Everyone knows it, everyone uses it, and it's been at the top of the charts for decades. It's the go-to for international deals, oil trades, and even the savings of entire nations. But just like in music, tastes can change, and new stars can rise. But lately, some countries are starting to think, hey, maybe we need a new jam. They're exploring other options. Maybe the euro, maybe the Chinese yuan, or even gold and digital currencies. It's like a global talent show and everyone's auditioning for the next big thing. And that, my friends, is what we call de-dollarization. It's a big, complicated shift, and it's happening right now. Countries are making deals without the dollar, signing trade agreements in their own currencies, and even building new financial systems that don't rely on the good old greenback. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to explore why some countries are giving the dollar the side eye, what's driving this global shakeup, and what it could mean for you, your money, and the future of the world economy. Get ready for a wild ride through the twists and turns of de-dollarization, because this story is just getting started. Now you might be wondering, why on earth would any country want to break up with the mighty dollar? After all, the US dollar has been the backbone of the global financial system for decades. It's the currency that most international trade is conducted in, and it's often seen as a symbol of stability and trust. But beneath the surface, there are some compelling reasons why countries are starting to question their dependence on the dollar. Well, there are a few reasons. First off, when the US sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Because the dollar is so dominant, any hiccups in the American economy can send shockwaves through the global financial system. Remember the 2008 financial crisis? Yeah, not exactly a fun time for anyone. When Wall Street crashed, economies from Europe to Asia felt the pain. Factories closed, jobs were lost, and currencies everywhere took a hit. The world realized just how vulnerable it was to events happening thousands of miles away in the United States. This interconnectedness means that even countries with strong economies can be dragged down by problems in the US, simply because so much of their trade and reserves are tied to the dollar. Secondly, some countries are feeling a little, shall we say, constrained by the dollar's dominance. They're tired of being beholden to US economic policies and sanctions. It's like being stuck in a long-term relationship where your partner controls the finances and won't let you order pineapple on your pizza. For example, when the US imposes sanctions, it can effectively cut off entire nations from the global financial system, simply because so many transactions are routed through American banks. This gives the US a powerful tool to influence global politics, but it also leaves other countries feeling vulnerable and frustrated. They want more control over their own economic destinies, and relying on the dollar makes that difficult. Finally, let's not forget about good old-fashioned competition. As other economies like China's continue to grow, they're looking to flex their financial muscles and promote their own currencies on the world stage. China, for instance, has been pushing for the yuan to be used more widely in international trade, and other countries like Russia and India are also exploring alternatives to the dollar. By encouraging the use of their own currencies, these nations hope to boost their global influence and reduce their exposure to US economic ups and downs. So it seems like the dollar's reign might be coming to an end. While it's still the king of currencies for now, the world is changing. More countries are seeking alternatives, building new financial alliances and experimenting with digital currencies. The future of global finance might look very different, and the dollar may have to share the spotlight. Now, predicting the future of the global economy is about as reliable as a weather forecast in a hurricane. The winds of change are swirling, the clouds are gathering, and just when you think you've got it all figured out, the market throws you a curveball. Economists and analysts spend countless hours poring over data, but even the best predictions can be upended by a single unexpected event. It's a world where uncertainty is the only certainty, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But if there's anyone who might have a decent idea of what's going on, it's those folks at J.P.Morgan. They're like the financial equivalent of Sherlock Holmes, except instead of deerstalker hats, they wear really expensive suits and carry the weight of billions of dollars in decisions on their shoulders. These are the people who spend their days analyzing global trends, crunching numbers, and making sense of the chaos. Their insights are sought after by governments, corporations, and investors around the world. When J.P. Morgan speaks, the financial world listens, sometimes with bated breath. And what are these financial detectives saying about the future of the dollar? Well, they're predicting that by 2025, the dollar's dominance will continue to decline. This isn't just a minor dip or a temporary setback, it's a gradual but noticeable shift in the balance of global economic power. The dollar, which has long been the world's go-to currency for trade, investment, and reserves, is starting to lose some of its shine. The reasons are complex, but the message is clear. The era of unchallenged dollar supremacy may be coming to an end. They're not saying it's going to disappear completely, but it might start looking a little less like Beyoncé and a little more like, well, let's say Nickelback, still around, but not exactly setting the world on fire. The dollar will remain important, but it may no longer be the superstar it once was. Instead, it could become just one player among many in a much more crowded field. Think of it as moving from center stage to sharing the spotlight with a new cast of characters. Some familiar, some brand new, all vying for attention. This prediction is based on a few factors, including the rise of alternative currencies, the increasing use of digital currencies, and of course, the ongoing de-dollarization trend we've been talking about. Countries are exploring new ways to trade and settle payments without relying on the dollar. Digital currencies like Bitcoin and central bank digital currencies are gaining traction, offering new possibilities for global finance. Meanwhile, economic powerhouses like China and the European Union are pushing their own currencies onto the world stage, challenging the dollar's long-held dominance. All these forces are converging to reshape the financial landscape in ways we're only beginning to understand. So there you have it, folks. The future of the dollar is still being written, and while it's not vanishing anytime soon, it's definitely evolving. Whether it becomes a supporting act or manages to reinvent itself for a new era, only time will tell. One thing's for sure, the world of money is changing fast, and we'll be here to keep you updated every step of the way. Okay, so we know some countries are ditching the dollar, but who are these rebels with a cause? Well, let me introduce you to the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This group of emerging economies is like the Avengers of de-dollarization, except instead of fighting Thanos, they're taking on the US dollar. They're tired of being at the mercy of American economic policies and are actively looking for ways to reduce their reliance on the dollar. And it's not just the BRICS nations, mind you. Other countries like Iran, Venezuela, and even some European Union members are exploring alternative payment systems and looking for ways to bypass the dollar in international trade. This trend is only gaining momentum, folks. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, this is all very interesting, but how will this whole de-dollarization thing affect me, a humble consumer of pizza and cat videos? Well, my friend, the truth is, it could have a significant impact on all of us. First off, a weaker dollar means higher prices for imported goods. That fancy Italian espresso machine you've been eyeing? Yeah, get ready to pay a premium for that. And don't even get me started on those avocado toasts. Secondly, a decline in the dollar's dominance could lead to higher interest rates, making it more expensive to borrow money for things like houses and cars. So, that dream of owning a beachfront property might have to wait a little longer, but hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Now, before you start building that underground bunker, let's talk about the potential benefits of a weaker dollar. For starters, a weaker dollar could give American businesses a competitive edge in the global market. Think about it. If the dollar is weaker, American products become cheaper for foreign buyers. That means more exports, more jobs, and a boost to the US economy. Secondly, a less dominant dollar could lead to a more balanced global financial system, one where other currencies have a chance to shine. This could reduce the world's reliance on the US dollar and potentially make the global economy more stable in the long run. So, you see, it's not all bad news. Now, before we get too excited about the prospect of a weaker dollar, we need to talk about the potential downsides. One major concern is that a rapid decline in the dollar's value could lead to inflation. Remember those higher prices for imported goods we talked about? Yeah, that's inflation in action. And if inflation gets out of control, it can wreak havoc on an economy. Another concern is that a weaker dollar could make it more expensive for the US government to borrow money. This could lead to higher interest rates on things like government bonds, which could have a ripple effect throughout the economy. So, while a weaker dollar could have some positive effects, it's important to remember that there are also risks involved. So, what does the future hold for the US dollar? Will it remain the world's reserve currency, or will it go the way of the dodo? Well, the truth is, nobody knows for sure. The global economy is a complex and constantly evolving beast, and predicting the future is a fool's errand. However, one thing is clear, the dollar's dominance is being challenged like never before. The rise of alternative currencies, the increasing use of digital currencies, and the ongoing trend of de-dollarization are all signs that the global financial landscape is shifting. Whether this shift will lead to a more balanced and stable global financial system or a period of economic turmoil remains to be seen. So, what can you do to prepare for this uncertain financial future? Well, the most important thing is to stay informed. Pay attention to the news, read articles about the global economy, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And remember, folks, knowledge is power. The more you understand about the global financial system and the forces that drive it, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. So, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, don't panic. And that's our show for tonight.